Right now, within 1 mile of where you are sitting, there is a building with months of survival supplies inside it. Not a prepper cache. Not someone's hidden stash. A completely ordinary abandoned building that has been sitting there, untouched, unlooted, full, because the people walking past it every single day have no idea what's inside. The people who survive a real collapse won't be the ones who got to the grocery store first. They'll be the ones who understood something most people never figure out until day 4, when the shelves are already bare and the pharmacy is stripped to the walls. But here's what nobody tells you. While every desperate person in your city is shoulder to shoulder fighting over the last case of water, the abandoned office building 3 blocks away is still completely stocked. The dental clinic on the 4th floor is untouched. The veterinary practice down the street still has its supply cabinet sealed. The laundromat on the corner still has its industrial bleach. And the school 2 blocks from that still has its cafeteria, its science lab, its nurse's office, and its tool shop, exactly as they were left. My name is Ghost, and this is the Old Wolf. He doesn't talk much. But in over 200 abandoned buildings across 4 continents, and a career built on surviving what other people didn't prepare for, he has never once walked out of an abandoned structure empty-handed. Not once. In the next 20 minutes, the Old Wolf is going to walk you through 15 specific items, free items, things already sitting in buildings near you today, that most preppers walk right past. What they are, exactly where to find them, what most people get completely wrong about each one, and what the Old Wolf does with every single one he finds. If this channel is new to you, what we do here is real-world, practical, zero-cost preparedness. No gear reviews, no sponsored products, no $400 knife recommendations. If that's what you're looking for, hit subscribe now, because this is the content that actually matters when the moment comes. Stay with me to item 7. Because item 7, the one the Old Wolf found in a dental office during a 72-hour grid-down exercise, is the reason he approaches every building differently now. And it will change how you see every structure you walk past for the rest of your life. Let's go. Item 1. Fire extinguishers. Every office, every restaurant, every school hallway, every commercial kitchen. Fire extinguishers are mounted on the wall in plain sight, bright red, impossible to miss, and in every collapse scenario ever studied, they are almost never taken in the first wave of looting. Why? Because people think they solve exactly one problem: fire. They are completely wrong. Here are 5 things the Old Wolf does with every fire extinguisher he takes off a wall. First, yes, fire suppression. When the grid goes down and people start heating rooms with open flames and improvised wood stoves, fire becomes one of the leading causes of structural death in collapsed urban environments. A fire extinguisher in your shelter is not a luxury. It's the item that keeps everything else you've gathered from turning to ash in the night. Second, non-lethal deterrence. A full dry chemical extinguisher discharged at close range causes immediate complete sensory incapacitation. Temporary blindness, respiratory paralysis, total disorientation for 30 to 60 seconds. That's enough time to create distance. That's enough time to escape a confrontation without escalating it. Third, and this one surprises people, the powder inside most commercial fire extinguishers is monoammonium phosphate. That compound, diluted with water and worked into soil, functions as a slow-release phosphorus and nitrogen fertilizer. Come spring, that powder feeds your garden. Fourth, the canister. Once emptied and cleaned, a pressurized steel vessel is a durable, airtight, impact-resistant water storage container. It outlasts plastic by decades. Fifth, signaling. A partial discharge creates a visible white chemical plume, visible at significant distance. No fire required. In a search and rescue scenario, that's a signal that doesn't burn down your position. 1 item. 5 uses. And the building you just walked into has at least 2 of them on every floor. But the next item, nobody wants it. That's exactly why you do. Item 2. Ceiling tiles and fiberglass insulation. I know how this sounds. Stay with me. In the first winter after a grid-down event, more people die from hypothermia than from violence. More than from infection. More than from starvation. Cold is the quiet killer that nobody prepares for because they assume that making a fire solves the problem. Fire needs fuel. Fuel runs out. And in an enclosed space, fuel produces carbon monoxide that can kill an entire family in their sleep. Insulation doesn't do any of those things. It works passively. It works when you have nothing left to burn. And it weighs almost nothing. Commercial drop ceiling tiles are engineered for one specific purpose: trapping air and preventing heat transfer. That is exactly the property you need between your body and the outside temperature. A single hallway of ceiling tiles, stacked and used to line the interior walls and floor of one room, creates a thermal envelope that your body heat alone can warm and maintain. Not comfortable, but survivable. Fiberglass insulation from wall cavities is better still. It compresses into a small bundle, stores inside a contractor bag, and provides genuine R-value insulation wherever you install it. Mandatory warning: gloves and a face covering are not optional when handling fiberglass insulation. The glass microfibers are invisible and will cause serious long-term lung damage if inhaled. Handle it like a hazardous material, because in this context it is. In a 10-story office building, you have enough insulation to keep an entire family warm through an entire winter. Nobody is competing with you for it. And it fits in a truck bed. I'll come back to item 7 later. The old wolf found something in a dental office in 2019 that changed the way he enters every building. I want to show you items 3 through 6 first, because each one builds on the last. Item 3. Smoke detector batteries. Every commercial building is required by fire code to maintain operational smoke detectors at regular intervals, typically one detector per 900 square feet of floor space. Run that math on a 10-story office building with 20,000 square feet per floor. That's potentially 200 smoke detectors. 200 batteries. Most commercial smoke detectors use 9-volt lithium batteries with a manufacturer-rated 10-year service life. A detector installed 5 years ago still has a battery holding 60 to 80% of its original capacity. It will power your LED flashlight, your radio receiver, your small electronic devices for months. What most people get wrong here is thinking about batteries the conventional way, as something you buy in a store. The old wolf thinks about batteries as energy units distributed throughout every building, waiting to be collected. Pro tip: bring a battery tester. They cost $3 and take 30 seconds per detector. You'll know immediately which batteries are worth taking and which to leave. In that 10-story office building, 3 to 4 hours of methodical collection produces a battery supply that powers your critical electronics for the better part of a year. Nobody is on a ladder pulling down smoke detectors. You are. Item 4. Commercial cooking oil. Walk into any abandoned restaurant, commercial kitchen, or institutional cafeteria. Go to the supply room. On the floor, against the back wall, you will find something that the first wave of looters almost never takes. 5-gallon jugs of commercial cooking oil. They leave it because it's heavy. Because it's awkward to carry. Because they grabbed the food they could see and ran. That was a serious mistake. 1 gallon of cooking oil contains approximately 30,000 calories. It is, calorie for calorie, one of the most energy-dense food sources you can carry. But calories are only the first use. Strain commercial cooking oil through cloth, and it burns in an improvised oil lamp for consistent light output, longer and cleaner than most improvised alternatives. It is also the base ingredient for cold-processed soap. Combined with wood ash, water, and thyme, cooking oil becomes the hygiene product that prevents the infection cascade that kills people in prolonged collapse scenarios. Commercial kitchens also have grease traps, the collection systems for used fryer oil. Strain that through cloth and you have a viable secondary fuel source for lamps and small heaters. Oil is heavy. That's why nobody takes it. Use that to your advantage. Item 5. Prescription eyeglasses from abandoned optometrists. This is the one that surprises people most, so let me be direct about why it matters. 3 out of 4 adults in this country depend on either glasses or contact lenses to function normally. Contact lenses fail within days without sterile cleaning solution and careful handling conditions. In a collapse environment, neither is available. A person who cannot see clearly cannot read labels, cannot identify threats at distance, cannot navigate unfamiliar terrain safely, cannot perform detail work, wound care, tool repair, fire starting, reading that survival depends on every single hour of every single day. Loss of vision correction and a collapse is a functional disability that most preppers never plan for. It reduces survival capacity dramatically, and it affects 3/4 of the people you will be working alongside. An abandoned optometrist office holds hundreds of frames across a full range of corrections. Reading glasses from +1 to +3 cover the majority of close-up work needs for adults over 40. Grab every display rack you can carry. The trading value of a functional pair of glasses to someone who has been unable to see clearly for a week is extraordinary. They will trade for it. Beyond correction, optical-grade glass lenses, held at the correct angle in direct sunlight, will focus a beam intense enough to ignite dry tinder in under 60 seconds. Every lens in that office is a fire-starting tool that fits in a shirt pocket. Don't walk past the optometrist. I want to pause here for a moment, because we are 5 items into this list, and I want you to notice something. Not one of these items required money spent in advance. Not one required special training. Not one required anything except knowing it was there. That is the entire point. The preparation is not the gear. The preparation is this: knowing what you're looking at before the moment comes. Because when the moment comes, you will not have time to think. You'll only have time to act on what you already know. Item 6 is where we go deeper. Item 6. Copper wiring from commercial buildings. Every commercial building is threaded with copper electrical wiring. With the grid dead, that wiring has zero electrical value. As a survival material, it may be the most versatile raw resource in the entire building. Here's what the old wolf does with every coil of copper wire he pulls from a wall. First, snare traps. Stripped and formed into a loop, 22-gauge copper wire makes a functional snare for small game. Rabbits, squirrels, ground-feeding birds. A snare trap is passive food production. It works while you sleep. It requires no ammunition. It can be reset indefinitely. 3 to 5 properly placed snares in a wooded area will produce meaningful protein within the first week. Second, the crystal radio. A coil of copper wire wound around a cardboard tube, connected to a germanium diode, a salvaged earpiece, and a variable capacitor from any piece of electronics in the same building, produces a functional AM radio receiver. No batteries. No power source. No moving parts. With that circuit, you receive emergency broadcasts for as long as there is a signal to receive, which in most grid-down scenarios is weeks to months before broadcast infrastructure fails. Third, perimeter alarm wire. Copper strung at ankle height around your shelter perimeter, connected to any noise-making object, gives you 30 seconds of warning that something is moving toward you in the dark. 30 seconds is an enormous advantage. Fourth, cordage. In the absence of rope, wire is one of the 3 most fundamental survival materials. It lashes, it binds, it suspends food caches out of reach of animals. A 20-foot coil weighs under 4 ounces. Bring wire cutters and a flat pry bar. Budget 20 to 30 minutes per floor. The wiring is inside the walls, open junction boxes, and wall panels. It's there. It's free. And it solves problems you haven't encountered yet. And now, Item 7. This is the one. Item 7. Dental offices. He entered 41 buildings over 3 days, cataloged everything of survival value, and ranked each location. The dental office on the 4th floor of a nondescript office complex was, by a significant margin, the single most valuable medical supply location he found across all 41 structures. Here is what was in the supply cabinets. Benzocaine topical anesthetic gel, the same compound used to numb tissue before dental injections. In a collapse where dental pain is untreatable and tooth infections can progress to potentially fatal jaw abscesses, this gel is one of the most desperately needed medical items you will encounter. Sterile nitrile surgical gloves by the box. In a post-collapse environment, a hand infection can escalate to life-threatening sepsis within 72 hours without antibiotic intervention. Gloves are the first barrier between survival and a wound that costs you everything. Medical-grade disinfectants, chlorhexidine iodine-based solutions, concentrated antiseptics that clean wounds and instruments, sterile instruments, forceps, explorers, mirrors, scalers. In a world without surgical facilities, these are the instruments that remove embedded debris, drain surface infections, and perform the detail work that prevents minor injuries from becoming catastrophic ones. Suture materials in many offices, prepackaged, sterile, often unexpired. The difference between closing a wound properly and leaving it open is the difference between controlled healing and one item the reference never mentioned: lead aprons. Every dental office has lead aprons for X-ray protection. In a scenario involving radiological contamination, which is a real contingency in certain collapse contexts, a lead apron is medical-grade radiation shielding that you cannot improvise and cannot purchase after the fact. Nobody loots the dental office. Everyone goes to the pharmacy, which is stripped to bare shelves within 4 hours of a collapse event. The dental clinic on the floor above it, still fully stocked. Pro tip: check the autoclave. Dental offices sterilize their instruments in a sealed autoclave cycle. Pre-sterilized instrument packs are often still vacuum sealed and ready to use. You now have more functional medical supplies than 90% of preppers who spent $500 at a medical supply store. And the building next door has something even they didn't think to look for. If you have been watching this channel for a while and haven't subscribed yet, this is the content that runs deeper than most of what's out there. Hit the subscribe button. We put new material out every week, and none of it is sponsored. Drop a comment and tell me, what type of building is closest to you right now? I read every single one. Item 8. Veterinary clinics. The pharmacy in your neighborhood will be stripped within 4 hours of a collapse. Within 4 hours. I am not speculating. This is the documented pattern from every civil disruption event for which we have reliable data. The veterinary clinic 1 block away will be intact for days. Here is why this matters more than almost anything else on this list. Many veterinary antibiotics are chemically identical to their human equivalents: amoxicillin, doxycycline, metronidazole, ciprofloxacin. These are administered to animals at the same active molecular compound as human prescriptions. The dosing instructions differ. The packaging differs. The molecule does not. This is not folk medicine. This is chemistry. The FDA recognizes the molecular equivalence of these compounds. Beyond antibiotics, a standard veterinary clinic carries IV fluids for hydration support, sterile syringes, epinephrine for anaphylactic emergency, electrolyte solutions, wound dressings designed for field conditions, and surgical tools built to work without a full hospital support system. A standard small animal veterinary practice carries 15 to 25 different antibiotic formulations on its shelves. The people fighting over the last bottle of ibuprofen at the pharmacy are 1 block away from a fully stocked medical facility they never thought to enter. Important note, and the old wolf is specific about this: antibiotics require correct identification, accurate dosing, and knowledge of drug interactions and contraindications. He does not take items he cannot use correctly. When you enter a veterinary clinic, the first thing you take, before the antibiotics, is the veterinary medical reference guide from the back office shelf. It is always there. It tells you everything you need to know to use what you're carrying safely. Take the guide first. Here's what I need you to understand right now, before we go further. The reason these buildings are still stocked, the reason the dental office and the vet clinic and everything we're about to cover are still intact while the grocery store is empty, is not luck. It's psychology. People in crisis default to the obvious. They go where they've always gone. They take what they've always taken. The grocery store. The pharmacy. The gas station. The person who knows what they're looking for doesn't go where the crowd goes. They go to the building across the street that looks empty because they know it isn't. That knowledge is what you're building right now. Item 9. Laundromats. Hygiene failures kill more people in prolonged collapse scenarios than violence does. The mechanism is infection, wound contamination, waterborne illness, respiratory disease spreading through a population. Most people think laundromats are about washing clothes. The old wolf thinks about what's in the supply room: large format commercial detergent, industrial grade bleach, fabric softener, cleaning concentrates. Now, I need to correct something important here, because the wrong information on this specific topic can genuinely hurt people. Commercial bleach is one of the most powerful water purification tools available to you in a collapse. But the ratio matters. The CDC verified ratio for treating drinking water with unscented sodium hypochlorite bleach at 6 to 8.25% concentration is 8 drops, approximately 1/8 of a teaspoon, per gallon of clear water. 16 drops for cloudy water. Let it stand for 30 minutes before drinking. A higher concentration is used for surface disinfection, not for drinking water. The numbers are very different, and confusing them could cause serious harm. One commercial-sized container of bleach, used correctly, purifies thousands of gallons of water over its shelf life. That container is sitting in the supply room of every laundromat in your city. The coin mechanisms and motor components from commercial washers are also reusable as improvised mechanical drive parts, belts, pulleys. Nobody thinks about the laundromat. That's the whole point. Item 10. Schools. Schools are the most comprehensively stocked buildings in most neighborhoods, and they are among the last buildings that most people think to enter. Here is why. U.S. federal law requires schools to maintain a minimum stocked first aid kit in every classroom. A 30-classroom school has 30 first aid kits. That's 30 separate supplies of bandages, antiseptic wipes, gloves, gauze pads, adhesive dressings, and in many cases, basic OTC medications, sitting in a cabinet in every single room, fully stocked to legal requirement. That's just the classroom. The cafeteria carries industrial quantities of non-perishable food, canned goods, sealed dry goods, bulk staples ordered weeks in advance, and stored in supply rooms that most people never see. The science department carries isopropyl alcohol, distilled water, pH test strips, alcohol thermometers, magnifying equipment, items that preppers actively spend money on. They're already there, already stocked, already free. The shop classroom contains hand tools, hammers, saws, wrenches, levels, measuring equipment, and the school nurse's office. The school nurse's office is the item that experienced preppers consistently underestimate. AED defibrillators, epinephrine auto-injectors, blood pressure cuffs, glucose monitors, prescription medications held for students with chronic conditions. These are clinical-grade medical supplies in a room that most looters walk straight past because they see a nurse's office and think Band-Aids. Do not walk past the nurse's office. Item 11. HVAC systems and mechanical rooms. Commercial heating and cooling equipment contains materials and resources that almost no prepper content ever addresses. Let me start with the one that surprises people most. Every running commercial air conditioning unit is actively pulling water out of the atmosphere and draining it away through a condensate line. In a water-scarce environment, that condensate line is a water source. A standard 5-ton rooftop commercial unit in a humid climate produces several gallons of condensate water per day. That water must be filtered and boiled before drinking. It collects airborne particulates and microbial material as it forms. But the collection infrastructure is already there, and in a water-scarce situation, atmospheric moisture extraction is a renewable daily resource. Beyond the condensate system, copper refrigerant lines in HVAC units are among the heaviest gauge copper available in any building. The belt and pulley assemblies from commercial air handlers are functional mechanical drive components, extractable and reusable. Filter media from commercial air handlers provides pre-filtration material for improvised water filtration systems. Layer it with sand and activated carbon from building materials, and you have a functional multi-stage filter. Mechanical rooms are locked. The Old Wolf carries a basic lockpick set and a flat pry bar. The room is worth the 60 seconds it takes to open it. Item 12. Reference books. A single trip through an abandoned school library can hand you more actionable survival knowledge than $1,000 spent on survival gear. I mean that precisely. Here is what the Old Wolf takes, in order of priority. Paper maps first. City maps, regional maps, state maps. GPS infrastructure fails when the grid fails. The person who can navigate without a satellite signal moves freely through a collapsed urban environment. Everyone else guesses. A paper map weighs 8 ounces and solves every navigation problem you will face. Medical and first aid reference book second. When there are no doctors, someone in your group becomes the doctor. The difference between making the right call and accidentally making a catastrophic one is usually 2 specific paragraphs of information. Have those paragraphs before you need them. Regional edible plant field guides. Third, your specific geography, your region, your climate zone has specific plants that are edible and specific plants that are toxic. That knowledge has kept human beings alive for 40,000 years. It weighs 4 ounces and fits in a cargo pocket. Plumbing and electrical reference manuals. The first serious community infrastructure projects in any prolonged collapse involve water and basic power. The person who understands both becomes essential to the people around them. Being essential in a collapsed community is survival security. Maintenance manuals for common mechanical systems, vehicles, generators, water pumps. Things break. The person who can fix them has a skill that doesn't expire and a position in any group that doesn't require force to maintain. The average school library holds 8 to 12,000 volumes. One afternoon produces a survival reference collection that would take years and hundreds of dollars to assemble from scratch. Books don't require batteries. They don't break. They don't expire. The old wolf always leaves with a full backpack of books. Always. I've been in this space a long time. I've watched most of the content that gets made on this topic. What I'm about to show you in the last 3 items, I have not seen covered anywhere else. Item 13 is the one most people underestimate because it doesn't look like a category. It is. Items 14 and 15 are the ones the old wolf found 2 years ago that he hasn't stopped thinking about since. Nobody in this community is talking about them. Pay attention. Item 13. Every desk drawer in every office. This sounds like the least glamorous item on the list. It is also one of the most reliably productive. People store personal supply caches at their workplace without thinking of them that way. They keep ibuprofen in the top drawer because their back hurts by Tuesday afternoon. They keep antihistamines because the building's HHA makes their allergies flare up. They keep antacids for the stress. They keep a backup prescription because they don't want to run out during a work trip. In a 50-person office, the old wolf finds useful medical or tool items in 3 to 8 individual desk drawers on a consistent basis. That's ibuprofen, antihistamines, prescription medications, asthma inhalers, blood pressure medication, kept as a job site backup. Multi-tools. A Leatherman or a Gerber or a Swiss Army knife appears in roughly 1 out of every 8 to 10 office drawers he searches. In a world without functioning hardware stores, a single multi-tool is not a convenience. It is a complete maintenance toolkit for every piece of equipment you own. Portable battery banks. The kind office workers use to charge their phones during long days. In a grid-down environment, even a partially charged 5,000 mAh battery bank is valuable communication capability. In the first week after a collapse, when cell towers may still have emergency backup power running on generators, that battery bank is the difference between information and silence. And information is survival. Pro tip, don't just check the top drawer. Check every drawer and the pedestal. Check under the desk. Many locked pedestal drawers open with a flathead screwdriver in 5 seconds. The locks are decorative. A 30-minute systematic sweep of a 50-person office produces a meaningful medical and tool cache that costs you nothing but time. Do not skip a single drawer. Not one. Item 14. Church and religious buildings. Religious buildings are among the most consistently overlooked structures in urban prepper strategy, despite containing some of the most valuable single resource finds in any collapse scenario. Let me be specific. Baptismal fonts and ceremonial water vessels hold stored water. A traditional baptismal font holds anywhere from 50 to 300 gallons of water in a sealed vessel, often chemically treated for clarity, in a cool, low-light environment ideal for storage longevity. That is a water reserve that required no advance effort on your part to maintain in a structure that most looters walk past because they see a place of worship. Candles. A standard religious supply room maintains candles by the gross. That's 144 candles as a standard ordering unit. Many religious institutions order 2 to 4 gross at a time. Walk in, walk out with 200 candles. Light and fire starting solved. Non-perishable ceremonial supplies, sealed communion crackers, grape juice, sugar-based provisions, salts, stored in a dry sacristy. But here is the angle that almost nobody considers. A religious building doesn't just contain physical supplies. It contains a pre-existing community network. The congregation is a mutual aid organization that has been operating, meeting regularly, and building internal trust for years before the collapse happened. It has leadership. It has communication channels. It has a physical gathering place. In the social chaos of a collapse environment, a pre-existing community network with established trust relationships, the church kitchen is also worth noting specifically. Many religious facilities serve large community meals and maintain commercial kitchens that are better equipped than most restaurant supply rooms and far less known to anyone who might be looking. Don't just walk through the door and leave. Understand what you're standing in. Item 15. Coin-operated car washes. I want you to look at a coin-operated car wash differently after today. Most people see a car wash. The old wolf sees a water infrastructure station. Here's what's actually inside that building. Industrial soap concentrate in 5-gallon drums, stored in the equipment room. Car wash soap concentrate dilutes at roughly 200 to 1. One 5-gallon drum produces 1,000 gallons of functional cleaning solution. That is months of hygiene supply for a family, in a container sitting in a room that nobody has thought to open. High-pressure pump and plumbing infrastructure. The entire car wash system, pressure hoses, water line fittings, spray nozzles, flexible tubing. In a post-collapse context, that infrastructure disassembles and reassembles as a gravity-fed water distribution system, heated water in holding tanks. Car washes preheat water to improve cleaning efficiency. The holding tanks in most car wash equipment rooms carry between 500 and 1,500 gallons of water that has been heated and is thermally insulated. After the grid goes down, those tanks retain their thermal mass for 24 to 48 hours. That is warm water for wound cleaning, for hygiene, for food preparation, at a moment when most people are struggling to produce. The 12-volt pump power system, standard in coin-operated car washes for motor operation. With basic wiring knowledge, that power system converts to operate on a solar panel input or a 12-volt battery bank. You are looking at a functional water pump that runs on the same power source as your portable solar setup. Nobody is going to the car wash. Nobody sees it as a resource. You do now. Act 3. Close and re-engage. Here is the picture. While the crowd is shoulder to shoulder at the grocery store, fighting over the last case of water and the last shelf of canned goods, you have just walked through a single city block. You left a commercial office building with fire extinguishers that serve 5 purposes, enough insulation to survive an entire winter, 200 batteries from the ceiling, copper wire for snares and alarms, and a radio receiver that needs no power, and a stack of reference books that teach every skill you need for the next year. You did not fight anyone. You did not compete for a single item that anyone else wanted, because they didn't understand what they were walking past. In the building next door, a dental office with a full medical supply cabinet nobody touched. A veterinary clinic with 15 different antibiotic formulations sitting exactly where the staff left them. A laundromat with industrial bleach that purifies thousands of gallons of water at the correct dilution. A school full of tools, non-perishable food. A nurse's office stocked with clinical-grade medical equipment. A church with 300 gallons of stored water and a community network that's been building trust for a decade. A car wash with 1,500 gallons of heated water and a solar convertible pump system. The obvious supplies run out in 48 hours. The buildings nobody thinks to enter stay stocked for weeks. The old wolf has entered over 200 abandoned structures across his career, in training exercises, in field scenarios, across 4 continents. He has never walked out of one empty-handed. Not once. Because he knows what to look for. Now you do too. The 15-item building checklist, the 30-day action plan, and the priority wall card are all in the description below. Download the wall card. Print it. Put it where you see it every day, because the moment you need it, you will not have time to look it up. And one more thing. Next week, we're going somewhere most prepper content doesn't go. The old wolf is going to walk you through the 10 most common mistakes people make when they enter a building under pressure. The movements, the assumptions. It's the video that this one sets up, and it changes how you move. Don't miss it. For now, drop a 1 in the comments if you found something on this list you hadn't thought of before. 1 number. That's all. I read every single one.